started devising our own methods. It was a stressful time, but stressful and challenging time always provides new opportunities. And we must look at them basically working in the education system. We must look at them as opportunity rather than as a challenge. I remember in my office, one of my student or other colleague from the Center for Simulation and Modeling, he came forward and he was showing some figures to me. He said, this is the model that has come from an American school. They have modeled basically the mortality that perhaps we will be facing during this particular pandemic. And the number was flabbergasting. He was speaking in terms of, say, 6-7 crores of people from India would die. So I said, don't even utter about this outside. Let's verify it first. And then I asked him if when you are a student and faculty of the Simulation and Modeling Center, whether it is possible to model our own data rather than depending on data that has come from outside. Someone else from America is modeling on the basis of what? He said it is quite feasible. So I asked him what is the requirement. He said he would like to have a clinical data. So then I approached the commissioner. In fact, there are 3 commissioners, one divisional commissioner, one municipal commissioner, and one specially sort of a assigned person for COVID management. So 3 commissioners I had discussion with. And then later on, they said like the clinical data again, you need to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, because it's very sensitive data. And you'll have to get it from basically from the civil hospital, that is Sassoon. So further discussion with Dean Sassoon. And then the data started pouring in. We had virtually in no time, in about 8 weeks time, we started getting the data. And then later on, some more partners we did the handholding with some mathematical schools from Chennai. And this entire exercise was giving very interesting figures. So we approached ICMR. And then the whole model was adopted by ICMR. So whatever you were during that time on TV, you were looking at with respect to the curve, whether it is flattening, whether it is moving in which particular direction. So what is the progress of this particular disease along the length and breadth of this particular country? So the modeling later on started speaking, and we realized that the figure that was contemplated by American schools had actually no value sort of thing. And then we started predicting how it's going to go and what different methods we need to be adopted. Most of the protocol, generally the containment zones and giving different colors, micro containment, some specific areas wherein basically there's a complete sort of lockdown, all sorts of protocols, those got decided on the basis of this particular model. And that was all been done by, obviously, the faculty from the SP Savitribai Phule Pune University. Then we thought like, we realized that what is the impact of this particular disease. Generally, it more or less attacks your respiratory system as well. And then it's more kind of a pneumonia kind of thing. So thrombosis kind of thing. Basically, the patient generally finds it difficult to respirate. So we took a survey that how many ventilators are available. And we found out that our public healthcare system is so vulnerable. All over India, basically, during that particular time, the number of ventilators that we counted were not more than 1 lakh. And then when there's a complete lockdown, there's nothing going out and nothing coming in from outside. So how do we deal with this particular situation? So creation of ventilators, that was another thing sort of. So we approached, I made an announcement to the student, and one illegal student from technology department came forward. They said, I can create a ventilator. And it was complete lockdown. But he started telling me, I need this, I need to move out and all that. So if you remember, Dr. Venkatesh was the police commissioner at that time, so I telephoned him. He said, yeah, I will give you permission, provided every time you travel along with him. So I started moving around with him. We got many parts that were required for the construction of that ventilator. Later on, I realized that it is not a job just an engineer. It is a more multidisciplinary character. You need to have a doctor because you are eventually going to make use of it on a patient. And then how much amount of volume of air must go in, what should be the pressure. So you have to have clinical trials and tests. So I was sitting in Sassoon every day, almost 7, 8 hours every day. And we were actually conducting some clinical trials as well. Then someone told us, like, in the meantime, how about conducting serological survey? All these terms were new to me. I'm a geology person. Always I dealt more with rocks rather than with living life. It's all dead material, the rocks. So these terms were new to me. I asked him, what is the serological survey? He said, like, you can understand from blood samples. We have to collect blood samples of various different people from different areas, and so that we will be able to understand how, in what manner, in what way this particular disease is progressing along the length and breadth of this district, or rather Pune city. So the serological survey was conducted. But prior that, I asked what would be the cost for conducting such a survey. They said about 1 crore rupees. Where from we should get this crore rupees money? So I approached Persistent Systems for their CSR activity, and they immediately came forward. They said that this is something very interesting that you're doing, so we'll pay you for that. And I'm so proud that the entire survey was conducted by students. And when there was a complete lockdown, students, they were on field conducting these surveys, collecting the blood samples. Antigen kit testing was happening on the campus as well as in the city part, wherein again the contribution came from mostly students, and that too mostly majority of them were undergraduate students. When I made an appeal, they came forward. I said, first of all, speak to your parents whether they are willing to allow you to move out. The parents came also and they supported. And then the serological survey was conducted, the antigen kit testing started happening. Then the next was the RT-PCR, because that was the only valid test that was suggested by ICMR. That and then on the campus, when I asked my teachers how many RT-PCRs do you have on the campus, because I remember that during this course of my vice chancellorship, during the purchase meeting, I had seen a couple of RT-PCRs were purchased on the campus. So I asked them, how about making use of it for doing the testing? They said, no, it requires a different kind of a lab. The basic safety level has to be 2 or 3, something different. But during that time, ICER, a close by institute, was conducting this particular survey. So I said, like, since we have RT-PCR, we can move our machines to ICER along with the teachers, and then perhaps the number can be increased. Like, so initially when ICER was conducting, say, 100 tests a day, with the addition of 3 machines, we could increase the number to 1,000. And that is how basically, so what I'm trying to impress upon you, that situation as it arose, taught many things to us. From that particular experience, we learned many lessons as well. And every time something new, some very innovative thing would come out of it. So stress is going to be there, not necessarily during only COVID time. Stress is always there when you are born, from there till the end. Every moment is going to be very stressful. And from that point of view, basically, how do we manage this particular stress? If there is a plenty of stress, in response to the stress, the next thing is strain. You get strain. Is it like you'll have migraine, you have backache, you have many elements sort of. So how do we manage this particular stresses? We the Indians, and especially the ancient sort of a tradition of the Indian traditional system as such, have two important things. One is yoga, and second, obviously, is the Ayurveda. You must have seen during this particular time, Ayush worked relentlessly and produced so many sort of materials to improve your immunity as such. All different kind of kadas and all that. And don't just ignore them. Some of them I physically have seen, and in fact we did in fact clinical tests, clinical trials of those kadas also, because the Ayush system basically that we have on the campus at the health science department, through which in fact we could do some kind of clinical trials at different places in hospitals. When the other medication was happening, the allopathy, a supportive kind of a dose of our Ayurveda was also given, as a supplementary thing was provided. And we could see the effect of it. Through clinical trials, we could prove it that these kadas or many Ayurveda medication basically was turning out to be very effective. So Ayurveda is one thing, second basically obviously the yoga. And yoga is what? Yoga is basically body and mind oneness in body and mind. Whatever when you are doing it, so you have to have a complete involvement into it. So keeping yourself very calm. Yoga is just not making postures. It is an internal transformation that happens. And if you actually understand the science behind yoga, perhaps you would do it more effectively. Yes. And these are the things basically that to a great extent came handy in many of the situations, as whether doctors or whether basically the so many old yoddhas, those who were on the street fighting this particular pandemic. So all of them to a great extent were provided with these kind of basically support systems like yoga and Ayurveda and many more things as well. And therefore it is very important because this is once in a lifetime basically. Incidentally, in 100 years probably such kind of a situation arises. Whether you consider yourself fortunate or unfortunate, but we have gone through this particular thing as well. And then we have learned many lessons out of it. And those lessons, those things needs to be actually discussed, deliberated, and has rightly been pointed out by your principal that while drafting a policy, this primary data is of utmost importance because most of policies get drafted on the basis of secondary data. So here you have a primary data collected from different corners of this particular country, and which to an extent will help in creating a policy, health policy, which will come or which would be of immense use, especially in a situation of this kind, if it gets repeated, if not now, but sometime in the future as well. And that is what actually an education institute can contribute. So I'm so happy that the Mahila Mahavidyalaya has taken this particular initiative with the support of the National Women Commission and many more sort of collaborating organizations through which you'll be discussing and deliberating on this very particular and very pertinent issue of stress management during the COVID-19 pandemic. I wish all success, and I wish that it will help in bringing out a good policy, a very strong policy at the national level. Thank you so very much.
Problems with online teaching and the use of artificial intelligence to overcome it, and the great work during the pandemic. It really inspired us, sir. Thank you, sir, for your golden words. It's honor to hear from you. It will really benefit us all. And now I would like to request Dr. Dhananjay Kulkarni, sir, to say few words.
Namaskar. Respected guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Secretary, Principal Atul Madam, Principal Ramdas Madam, and dignitaries. Firstly, I congratulate Siddhivinayak College for paying more attention on this subject. And not only paying attention, but they conducted survey, studied it, and now they are conducting seminar for 2 days. So firstly, I congratulate Siddhivinayak College for paying much more attention on this aspect. I congratulate also. Yesterday night, around 10:30, it was called me and told that I should talk to you on this topic from little one to. In the introduction, it was told that I am Ayurvedic physician, so it is better to talk on this subject from Ayurvedic point of view. And already sir has told you that how not only Ayurveda but Ayush sector helped in this pandemic. There is no need to define stress. I think many of the speakers will throw much more light on this aspect. Generally, we can say that the feeling or condition which is developed when you are doing forcefully something. Forcefully something means it is beyond your capacity and you are trying to complete that particular work. Feeling during that period or that particular condition, we can say as a stress. If you see the all subjects or topics which we are going to discuss in these 2 days, this entire seminar is concentrated on the stress related to mental health. But it is not a complete truth. When we use the word stress, it may be on physical level as well as it is on mental level. And many times we misinterpret or underutilize the word stress, physical stress, which we usually forget. For example, if I have a capacity to carry 25 kg of weight, and if I am carrying 50 kg or 100 kg of weight for a longer period, definitely it is going to create stress, develop stress on my sharira, on my dhatu, and definitely it is going to lead many of the diseases. Okay, for example, that will lead to dhatu kshay, that will lead to kshay roga, which is compared with tuberculosis. We know that we are mycobacteria tuberculosis, which is a bacteria responsible for tuberculosis. But we are not paying much attention that this particular physical stress, not only it is a carrying weight, but nowadays running, walking, swimming, which is means there are 2 categories of people in the society. Category number 1, they don't do anything, means exercise, and second category, they do much more exercise, which is which is the positive factor of such type of thing. So what I want to say that physical stress is also equally important, and that also should be highlighted in such type of seminar. I think in this seminar we are not highlighting it if I'm not wrong. Now let's come to the main topic, that is mental stress. I will say when I will get mental stress. Again, the same thing, I have a capacity to handle, say, 2, 3 projects at a time. And if I take 5 or 10 projects at a time, definitely the work pressure will develop a stress. Why I took 5 or 10 projects when I know I have a capacity to handle 2 or 3 projects. Okay? And the reason behind it is called as Prajna Parad. Prajna Parad means Prajna Aparad. Prajna means your intellect. Intellect means your capacity to take decision. Your Prajna, your intellect is taking wrong decision, that though I have a capacity to handle 2 or 3 projects, I am taking more projects, and this wrong doing of your intellect is the basic cause of developing stress on mental level. So, what will this is one part. Secondly, we are discussing, or many times it is discussed as a disease. But if you see, it is not a disease. What I told you, that it is affecting on physical level, it is affecting on mental level, and it is leading to few diseases. So, stress is not a disease with which we have to deal, but it is the positive factor which is responsible for so many physical and mental diseases. Now, I will give you a few examples. If mental stress is there, what will happen? You will develop kama, krodha, bhaya, chinta, such type of mental factors, and they are causes of so many diseases on mental level as well as physical level. I will give you examples, 2, 3 examples about it. Karma, that means any desire. If you see the types of jwara, there is one type of jwara which is called as kamaja jwara. What does it mean? I have a desire to do something, I don't get it, and as my desire is not fulfilled, jwara is developed, that is called as kamaja jwara. So, stress can develop you a disease on physical level. Let's take example of krodha. Many studies show that means it can lead to many diseases, but I will give you only one example, say paralysis. Study shows that maximum occasions where paralysis attack, means patient is suffering from paralysis, means he came to you with all the symptoms, and if you take the history, you will find that anger is the cause. He was angry, he was doing something, he angrily said something, and then immediately he collapsed. So, again, diabetes, blood pressure, so many other positive factors are there, but nobody pays much attention on this anger, which is developed due to stress. Okay? Chinta and bhaya, about which I told you 2 more factors. Those factors also affect on oja. Oja is nothing but essence of dhatu. What are dhatus? Dhatus are the factors which are responsible for continuing your life. Okay, and it is the essence of it. Study shows that maximum heart attack incidences are taking place on Monday morning. Maximum heart attack events are taking place on Monday morning, and that's the reason why it is happening. The stress of coming Monday, coming week, stress of coming week is developing ojakshay, which leads to heart attack. So, what I want to say, I don't want to go on a treatment part, this should be done, this should be done, this should be done. On mental level, what should be done? Only one thing I will tell you, as I told, that prajna means wrong decision taken by your intellect is the basic cause of developing stress. So, to correct it, means forget about Abhyanga, Shirodhara, which I think you are more aware than me. But only thing which I want to stress is Dhinairatma Vidyana Manodosha Shrastha. Means if wrong decision taken by your in is the causative factor, then to concentrate on your Dhi, Dhairya and Atma Vijnana. Again, Dhi means your capacity to take a correct decision. To correct that, that is the basic thing which you should do instead of doing all many of you should take this step, you should take this step, kara vagera, so many things. But that is all treatment part is secondary. What is important, you have to concentrate on this. Dhruti. What is Dhruti? You have taken good decision, but you cannot hold it. I have taken, oh, from today I am going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I forget immediately and I don't concentrate. I don't remember also at 5 o'clock that I have to wake up. So you have to develop this sense. Thirdly, Atma Vidya. Atma Vidya is who I am. What is my life goal? If you always concentrate on these factors, definitely you will not land in Prajna Para. And if you don't land in Prajna Para, definitely you will not develop stress. Hence, lastly, I will say, instead of pointing somebody else that that particular thing is responsible by stress, we should always think, Atmanam eva manyeta kartaram sukhadukkhayo. I am responsible for each and everything, good or bad, in my life. Okay? So, with these words, I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for interpreting the stress in so detail. We come to know various aspects of the stress. Now I request Srimati Mukta Pundaklekar Madam, Director of Muktanga Rehabilitation Center, to please come on the dais. I request Dr. Karmadkar sir to felicitate Pundaklekar Madam. Yes, she is the speaker for the next session. Thank you, sir. At the end of this inaugural function, it's a privilege to extend the words of gratitude. We are thankful to distinguished personality, Dr. Karmakar sir, for giving this event such a grace. Sincere thanks to Honorable Shastri sir, Dr. Dhananjay Kulkarni sir, Respected Principal Madam, Dr. Sangeeta Athawale, Director, Dr. Surya Ramdas, all the Vice Principal, all the faculty members of Siddhivinayak College and HMIR College for your continuous efforts, all the volunteers, non-teaching staff, and dear students. Thank you very much. We will start our next session in 5 to 10 minutes. Students, please. Now I would like to hand over the mic, Dr. Ramika Kulkarni ma'am.